This is the Dick and Conversation podcast. I'm Elissa. If this is your first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you've heard me before, welcome back. If you've heard me, you probably heard me on Amazon, iHeart, Pandora, Spotify, or you watch me on YouTube, or you may have watched me on Spotify because Spotify stepping the game up. I gotta give it to them; they're stepping up the game. So now you can listen to the music. Excuse me, on Spotify, or you can watch the video. So you may be able to watch me on Spotify. My socials are Dick and Conversation Podcast Facebook page. My YouTube channel is Dick and Conversation Podcast. Like, subscribe, and share, download, all that good stuff. My Instagram is Dick and Conversation underscore podcast. My email is dickandconvo@gmail.com. My blue sky is Social. And now I'm on TikTok. I mean, I've been on TikTok. I was just never Dick Conversation on TikTok. I was like me on TikTok. But now I'm on TikTok. So look at my TikTok page. I don't make a lot of videos. I need to, today is the first day that I feel like I'm going to start being the brand new old me. As always, got my water in my stand. I want to be the brand new old me because in like 2019, 2018, 2019, 2020 VC, all of that stuff before COVID, before coronavirus, I was kind of a little more outgoing, busy. I was taking care of my health, taking care of myself mentally. That was kind of the end of my whole phase or middle of the whole phase, depending on what year you're looking at. But I was just busy and I liked who I was. So now I'm a little bit more mature, a little more settled. But there were some aspects about me during that era, my little wild girl era, that I like. And I want to retrieve and bring back into this brand new old me now that I'm over 50 and a seasoned elder of society. That I want to do that. So this is the day after the Oscars that I'm recording. I want to say congratulations to Michael B. Jordan. That not that he will ever see this, but hey, I'm saying it anyway. I remember him as being Wallace on The Wire when me and my ex-husband used to watch it on Sunday night. It was like The Sopranos. It was Wire. And we had The Wire. We had to sit there and watch it because my ex-husband was from Baltimore, so we was looking at places we had been and people we knew in the show. So when I was watching Michael B. Jordan, he's always been Wallace to me, And every time I look at him, I just hear in my head string with a kid, string with a kid. What happened to the kid? So congratulations, Michael B. Jordan. Also, before I jump into my subjects of parents, peers, and partners, I also want to talk about what's been kind of controversial with EJ Johnson and about the men that he attract or he date, and some people say just because you have rich, you're entitled man, or femme presenting. Here's the thing, my take on EJ, and not that EJ will ever see this. Not that EJ will ever see this. What people are missing about EJ's aura, persona, personality is EJ lost a lot of weight. EJ had bariatric surgery, like myself. And I'm here to tell you, when you lose that weight from that bariatric surgery, it does create a whole new level of confidence. Not that you're not confident before or feel good about yourself or have so high self esteem, but when you begin to appear differently, when you're slimmer and society starts to treat you differently, particularly the opposite sex, or in EJ's case, the same sex, or just people who are attracted to you, that does boost your confidence a little bit. I can see how some people may begin to get a little bit, the old people say, live full of themselves and think, well, hell, I'm an old person now, full of themselves. So I can understand, but I think that main factor in itself contributes a lot to EJ's confidence of, I could pull this straight man, I could pull this man, and I have this, and I have these clothes, and I wear this, and I wear that. Because if you go look up those old pictures of EJ Johnson, EJ was a large individual. They were a bigger guy, bigger person, bigger person. But, once you kind of lose that weight, you get this boost of confidence that is unmatched. And I can say it because I used to be three bills and some change. on a good day. I remember going to the gynecologist and getting on the scale, and that sucker said 316 pounds. And I looked at the nurse and said, "Is y'all scale broken?" She said, "It hasn't been all day, Alyssa." I'm 300 and some change. And I had lost weight by that time. So that's the one thing I wanted to add into the EJ Johnson controversy. Not that EJ will ever see this, but that's my thing. That weight loss, fed into that little personality. It's like, I'm fine. I'm extra fine. I'm finer than all the rest of y'all. Plus, I got money. So that in itself is like, woo woo. So I wanted to jump in today's topic where I was going to talk about parents, peers, and partners, the three P's, parents, peers, and partners. And it's been because a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks since I've done an episode. It's been quite a bit of just life changes, not necessarily with my life, but with those around me. And with those being around me, I can't help but by proximity and by love and empathy and care and concern, sometimes their issues become your issues and you take on the problems of your loved ones. Or even if you don't take them on, you do feel. So if you're a compassionate person, now if you want people just don't care, like that ain't my problem, then okay, this don't apply to you. This is not your episode or not your ministry. But I want to first jump in about parents, and I've already spoken about how you've had to parent your parent with health issues. That I'm still in it with that with my mom. My mom is doing great. So for all of you who prayed and wish my mom's doing great. She's fabulous. She's just one that just, that's her. She'll do what she want to do. She's just a fighter, and she wants to go back to her old life of how she was doing. And she's not gonna do all the stuff she used to do, but she's doing better. So parenting your parents is just something that I'm still continuing to do. And I'm navigating through it as best I can because this is uncharted water. I lost my dad. It'll be 10 years. It'll be 11 years next month. So that's something that as we get older, we tend to deal with. I know my best friend Erica just recently lost her mom, and like I said, when you care about somebody, you love someone, their hurt becomes your hurt. Now I'm not hurting the way she's hurting with the loss of her mom, but you still feel for your friend because she's lost her mom and she's hurting, and that's a major void in her life. She was very close with her mom, as I'm sure many of us Gen Xers are. We kind of grown up with our parents, and we're kind of grown with our parents now. And as they get older, we have to look out for them until they're gone. Like the old saying is, twice a child, once an adult. We're young, and then they get older, and they're the adult, and they're parenting us and they're instructing us. And then as they become a little older, even more, once again, they return to their second childhood where you have to care for them. And just with the loss of her losing her mom, I was stunned because it's like, oh my God, what do you say? Because what do you do to provide some type of comfort, which I can't. All I can just say is, I'm here for you, whatever you need. We met for lunch this weekend, and it's always a good time to meet for lunch. I told her, girl, I don't know what it is. I don't care how far I move along in life. A good dive bar is just always at home to me. So you can go get some wings and some fried green beans and some fries or something like that. You're playing some music from the '80s. You just gotta love it, or I do. I don't mind doing it. But it was good to just talk her through what to expect in the grieving process, because this is her first parent that she's lost, and just to tell her what to expect, because this is new territory for her, but familiar to me with the loss of my dad. Told her there will be times where you, without thinking, will grab the phone and try to call them, or think later on, I'll just ask mom or I'll just ask dad, and you can't. So that's just something that's like, gosh, this really sucks. What was really what was really interesting was I went to her mom's funeral, and the service was really nice. It was very organized. It was very, very classy, very, very classy at a church. And the minister who did her mom's eulogy, sorry, his hair is getting, he gave an amazing eulogy where he told everyone to think of their version of her. and how they knew her, and how you may know her as your wife is not the version that her children knows her as their mom or their best friend or their coworker or their grandma. And as I sat there listening, I was like, wow, that's true. All of us have a different version of who we are to someone else, which I thought, I wonder how many versions there are of me because I'm a quote unquote Gemini that we supposedly have two sides. So I don't know how many sides I am to different people. But I thought that that was an interesting thought of everyone think of their version of that person. And I'm sure if someone had to go around to all the people in their life and ask them, what am I like to you? Or describe me to you, to me. I'm sure you would be amazed or shocked or stunned. Some of it you probably relate to, and some of you think like, that's not me at all. I have a friend, strapping young lad. Hey, strapping young lad, that he describes stuff to me, and I'm like, that's not me. I don't know who you think you've been meeting for the last 7 years, but that's not me. I would never do anything like some of the stuff you say. Like, dude, I don't think you know me. Hell, I don't even think you know the version of what you think I am because I don't, some of the stuff you say I've never done, would never do or think. And then I just say, you're projecting. that's our new saying. You're projecting. So I wanted to touch on that when it comes to parenting. Those of you who still have your parents counted as a blessing. Yes, I'm speaking Christian. Counted as a blessing. Every day is a blessing to have your parent and their version of them to you as mom, as dad. And once they hit that phase where they will become that second child, be patient. Teach them. You gonna have to teach them all the stuff they taught you because they gonna be difficult. Like I said in my last episode, boy, them parents something else. You ain't got nothing on a teenager. You took us on something different. But I did want to touch on that just a little bit. Also, I want to talk about peers. While we're speaking about loss, it'll be the end of this month. I would have lost my best friend, and he's been gone for 3 years. But he comes to my dream, comes to me in my dreams when I'm super stressed out, super stressed. And he's always doing something that's just he would have been doing, drinking a beer, eating a cheeseburger, or sitting in the car, sitting at a table, just something simple. But he always comes. And I've talked to quite a few friends, and I've said, you know what, we're finally at the age where we're starting to lose our peers. Like we're starting to lose our peers. Our classmates are passing away. I just recently lost my whole high school principal. I lost my high school counselor, guidance counselor. I've lost some of my favorite teachers, and I'm losing classmates. I think in the past 3 years, I've lost maybe 7 or 8 classmates. I just recently lost another classmate. I didn't even know her. Like I feel bad that I'm in the group chat on Facebook with my classmates, and they're like, "Oh, she was a member of our class." And I'm like, "I don't remember her. I don't know her. I don't remember her." And I feel so bad that I don't. But there were those who were in there who did, and they remembered her from middle school, and they talked about her, and it's like, okay, cool. But when you start losing your peers, that's when you get like, this is scary. Like your mortality is really hitting you in the face. Like, bam, that's your time is coming. You moving up the ladder of the generation that's passing away. To think that we have to do memorials for our classmates and our friends, and I'm seeing some people are my classmates are widows, and some of them are widowers, and they've lost their partners. It's like, how did this happen? When did we become this old? I guess in my mind, I like Heather Headley. A little more water. Water's always good for you. In my mind, I always feel like I'm about 25, 26, 30 at the most. But no, I'm 52. A couple more months, I'll be 53. So that's always that awakening of how little time you have left. Like, oh my God. I know, COVID seemed like quarantine seemed like it just, shaved off some years of everybody's life. Like that sucker just, them 2 or 3 years felt like 10. I enjoyed it though, some parts of it. But that in itself, it felt like it just shaved many, many years off of your life. And then you begin to take inventory of the things you haven't done and the things you still want to do. Do you have enough time? Because when you're losing your parents and you're starting to lose your peers, and some of our peers are losing their partners, you begin to wonder, like, how much time do I have? So that also fed into the whole brand new old me. Like, okay, not that I'm going to go back to whole phase, because I don't want to go back to whole phase, but I do want to go back to the phase where the parts of that phase where I felt confident. I'm ready to tackle the world. I didn't care what anybody thought. I'm, busy. I'm grinding. I'm hustling. I'm doing this. I'm trying, but that was work and with the kids. And now I don't even have little bitty babies anymore. So I don't have to be at home and make sure this is together and make sure this is straight. I have a lot less responsibilities now than I did back then. So I was like, let me revisit that phase of my life. So don't be surprised if you begin to see a lot more clips of me with this podcast. And I do have a lot of work that I have to do because, like I said, I told Yat once, Yat 42, Yat Life Chronicles, YLC. I told Yat, I said, I work in corporate America. This is my passion project. I would love to have my podcast as full time, but Black Effect Podcast Network, if y'all want to, add me on. I'm with that. But I can't. So because I kind of like having a roof over my head and having lights on and heat in the winter and water and all that good stuff, all those little luxuries, I decided that I really, really want to keep working in corporate America for now. But this is my little passion project. So don't be surprised if you see me pouring a little more into my podcast. Just support me, ride with me as I go on this little journey of the Dick and Conversation podcast. Finally, the last P that I want to touch on are the partners. Now, the reason why I want to go into partners is because in having a conversation with someone, and I was there, we were talking about how things are going with marriage and relationship, and how things going through this, that, and other. I was speaking to someone, and they were saying they hardly get a chance to see their spouse. I thought, really? Why? And they broke down their schedule to me, that they get up and go to work at around 6 or 7, and they're up and going, and their spouse is asleep because of their shift. And by the time they get off work at around 2:30, their spouse is already gone because their spouse is gone to work at 2 o'clock. And then by the time their spouse get off at 10 o'clock and get home at around 10ish, 11, they're asleep. And then when they wake up, their spouse is asleep and they have to get up and go to work. So they're kind of missing each other and passing. And I thought, like, how do you feel about that? Like, you have this partnership, but you're kind of missing each other. And I think that's good to a degree, because once you do connect, it's amazing. You have tons to talk about. You have this amazing opportunity to reconnect. But I also feel like that's kind of sad. You have to wait to get the time to connect. So how many more minutes are missing, or things that you forget in a day that you may not have, may not remember when you do connect on the weekend. However, as my god brother Corell says, um, I've been in that relationship, those kind of relationships where they were on a different shift than I was. I wake at 5:30 in the morning to go to work, and by the time I get off at 3:30, 4 o'clock, they're going to work already. And then they get off at like 11:30 midnight, and I'm about to go to bed. So we get a chance to connect maybe 2 hours to about 1 in the morning every night, which it sounds bad to a degree. But at the same time, I think if we were on the same shift, we wouldn't have made it. I don't know. We got along really well. It'd have been like, why you on my space? And why you doing this? And why you doing that? And, you know, so having an opposing shift sometimes in the partnership might not be so bad. Might be all right. It saves the partnership. Who am I to say? Um, I'm also wanting to speak about the partnership part. I'm still reading Shay's book. Hey, Shay. Shay Parker, who wrote and is the host of Sip and Chat Lounge, her podcast, which is on hiatus, but she wrote the book Sip and Chat Lounge, and is reading her book. There was one section in the book where there was a couple. I don't know who they are, but the woman in the marriage was speaking on her stepdaughter not having a good relationship with her sometimes she because of the mom, the quote unquote baby mama in this, and it's her husband's quote unquote baby mama, and sometimes they don't have a good relationship. And I know even sometimes I know of a person who married a woman, and he says, "Well, her and my daughter don't get along. She doesn't get along with my daughter. They don't like each other." And it got me to thinking, how do you marry a person who doesn't like your children? Like, how did you get that far where they don't like your child or your child doesn't like them? It is an absolute must. Not to say we are always we're a package group, but yes, we are a package where you should have your. This is me on my high horse. Here we go. And I've been in these situations, cautionary tales coming up, where I've dated people and they had children, or people have dated me and I had children. They had to have their own relationship outside of me, and I had to have my own relationship outside of that person. I have relationships with their children, and it don't involve them. Like just seeing their daughter as their daughter, seeing their son as their son, and they see me as Alyssa, not as dad's girlfriend. I don't see them as my boyfriend's kids. I see them as an individual. And I think that people should learn and take the time to do that before they jump into legal partnership marriages, because that gotta be horrible, miserable when you're in the house with a kid who don't like you, or your mom is married to this woman. I'm sorry, your mom is married to this. Your dad is married to this woman, and you don't like her, or your mom might be married to this woman, and you don't like her, or your dad is married to this man, and you don't like him. You don't like your parent's spouse, or you don't like your spouse's child. I think people need to take some time, pump your brakes, and get to know the kid outside of the parent before you say I do. And talking with Shay, once again, hey Shay, Sip and Chat Lounge. You got a book on Amazon. I was in talking with Shay. I said, I need to have my partner have a relationship with Jay and Janelle. Those are my kids. They have to have that relationship. For example, if I'm sick and I'm in the hospital, I'm out of town, whatever it is, where I'm not available to my children, and something happens with my children need to be able to see my partner as a resource of refuge that they can reach out to and say, hey, mom's not available. I can't get to mom. And be able to contact my partner for refuge, for advice, for fun, for just having some type of connection to. I think that's muy importante, very important to do before you say, I do. I'm not marrying anyone who I can't get along with their child. That's just foreign to me. So, for anybody that's watching my podcast, and I know my little 2 cents isn't a whole lot, but it's my 2 cents. Before you say I do, take the time to get to know those kids, especially if they're young adults. Get to know what they like. Meet them as who they are, not as your partner's kids, but as who they are. What do they like? What kind of music do they listen to? Give them a feeling of safety with you, and then you can have that whole unit of a family in a safety zone. Because I'm here to tell you, I'm still a proponent for marriage, even though I'm a divorcee. I'm still a proponent for marriage. There is no way on God's green earth, God's blue earth, Will I ever marry someone who does not have a relationship with my children? Thankfully, I've had that where, the kids call him Unc. Hey, Unc. And he be like, what's up, gang? And chat and things like that. And they can make little jokes and call each other meanie. You the meanie, I'm meanie, I appreciate that. That makes me feel at ease because I cannot understand how women have men who live in their homes and they have sons because the son will always look at the stepdad as you in my mom's house. And the stepdad will begin to look at the son as you're an intrusion, or the daughter, you're an intrusion. So that's me with my little partner thing that I saw in Shay's book. And I was like, I got to add this in there. I also want to speak about positive things, something positive. I'm revisiting love languages because I had a coworker, thank you, that spoke to me about love languages. And he was like, Alyssa, how's the podcast going? I said, it's going pretty good. And so, had a little conversation, a little chit chat and says, they're working on understanding their spouse's love language, which is great. I absolutely think that's great, and they're concerned that they're not loving their spouse in the way that they feel their spouse wants to be loved. And I said, oh, really? I said, I just spoke on that in my podcast a week ago. They hadn't heard it. He hadn't heard it, and I was like, well, yeah. I said, but he keeps, and they said, well, I hope that my wife can see that I'm trying. It may not be necessarily what she wants, but I hope that she knows that I'm trying. So I wanted to revisit this. And this was a quick blurb. Once again, blurbing it quickly again. Sometimes you have to allow a person to love you the way they know how for a moment until they learn how to love you the way you want to be loved. And once they do that, then it will come easily. But that's just one of those things that's, like, oh, okay, um, I love you. I'm your love language is probably gifts, and I want to get you gifts and things like that. Yes, but if your love language isn't gifts, if your love language is time, then okay, give them time. You may have to do the love language that um, you know and and just say, okay, let me do this, let me at least show that I'm trying. And if you can see that your spouse, your partner is at least trying, don't go like, I wanted you to touch me, I want you to make me feel sexy. They may not necessarily know how, so allow them to love you the way they know how, but still let it be known that you want the type of love that's your love language. So if they give you their act of service, like they cook you dinner or something, and yours is more of a gift, like do it in a nice way, in a loving way. But like, you know what, babe, you put all that money, you spent money to buy the food and you put time in to cook the food. And I appreciate you doing that. But next time, just to save the time, just order us some Chinese and we can do that. You getting your gift. You get your gift, get your takeout, say what you want, you know. Babe, I know that you want to go window shopping and you like to, let's go window shopping. But on occasion, just, pick out something you would like for me to have. That's getting your gift. That's getting your love language. And there may be quality time. So if you go window shopping and then allow them to buy the gift, the purse, the shoes, the shirt that you would like to have, they get their quality time with you and you get your gift. Find ways to make the love language work. So that's my revisit back to love language. And when they do begin to grow, acknowledge it because I have someone that I know that's in my life, and the growth, baby, is astounding. It's measurable. And when you see growth in someone, acknowledge it because I had this thought in the shower this morning. Change is inevitable, but growth is intentional. You are going to change because you get older, you have different experiences, different thoughts. And, as you grow, if you're a Christian and you grow into your Christian walk, you're going to change anyway. You're just going to change. You're just going to get a different belief system and different ways of doing things. And, change happens. It just happens. But growth, that's intentional. You have to intentionally say, I'm not going to slap her like I used to in my younger days. Somebody say something crazy, like, back, who you talking to? That's an intentional thing. When someone shows you their growth, if you're used to having crazy conversations where you can say random things like, you must be cheating on me. And then, I am not cheating on you. You crazy. But now you have those crazy random thoughts. You must be cheating on me. And they can say, you know what? I know you're probably hormonal because you're perimenopausal or you're premenopausal or you're just tired. You had a bad week or upset or you're hungry. You're hungry. Whatever it is, you're hangry. And so I'm going to give you a pass. Acknowledge that growth. Growth is intentional. You have to put forth an effort to grow because I know it used to be a time somebody said, who are you talking to? Even with my children, who are you talking to? But now my growth has led me to a point where I can say, hold on. Let's walk this back. Let me try to understand where you're coming from. Let me try to understand why you're feeling what you're feeling, why you're saying what you're saying. So tell me, what were you thinking before you said this? Like, what did you see? What did you do? Growth is intentional. Change is inevitable. That's my little thing. If you implement that in them partnerships, baby, I'm here to tell you, them partnerships be all right. I can say that now. Now, speaking of partnerships, so here's my disclaimer. Please don't get at me if your spouse, this is just me talking on something that was conversations I've had probably in the last year. It's been about a year, maybe more, of men, because I know men do this, and then a couple women too, more men than women, but both have talked about how when their marriages fell apart, the organizations that their spouse belonged to played a role. I'm like, really? And I'm not talking like it caused a fracture in their marriage or it caused them to separate. I'm talking divorce, fully divorced, fully separate, different homes. Some have moved to different cities. Some have remarried. And I was wondering, like, does it really make that big of a difference? So I had to do a little research and I reached out to someone whose wife had recently crossed over into an organization. I'm not saying anyone because D9 ain't coming after me. I'm just saying. And I asked them, I said, hey, have you noticed a difference in your wife since she crossed over? And if so, what? And he said, I gotta call you. So he called and I was like, oh my God. And he said, not really. I haven't noticed. I said, we're both pretty busy. It's like, I'm really busy. She's really busy. So I haven't had a chance to even notice if there's a difference in her. Now, I hope he don't see this, but to me, that's the issue. Like, y'all that busy. If she has changed, you haven't noticed. But that's just me saying this now. So I'm whispering like he gonna hear me. He might, but if not, I don't worry about it. He said, I really haven't. He said, when you're telling me this about people who lost their spouses or lost their marriages as a result, what are they telling you? And I said, well, they tell me that their thought process changed, and and because they have now belonged to part of that community, or that organization, community organization, that they saw a change in their husband slash wife, whichever, both, and it was not the person who they felt. They felt like the organization was influencing the thoughts and feelings of their spouse, and it caused a fracture in the partnership, and they just couldn't sustain. And I'm like, so as I was heard this from several people, I'm like, but was it really the organization, or was it just, it were other things that were going on and that kind of just contributed, and I don't even want to mean like contributed to the fracture, but it contributed to just finding a different version of yourself. And it kind of revealed the growth that was growing apart. And some were like, no, it was really that organization, that community that became influential because they had members who were not espoused, and they wanted to spend more time or they had these things, and the negativity of what they had their members had gone through was influencing my spouse, and my spouse was coming home with some of this and bringing it into the house and bringing them into the house, and it became problematic, and it just snowballed on top of everything else, other things that may have been going on, and we just decided that this is not it, we didn't want this anymore. And I went like, really? So I don't know enough about it. I'm still doing research on it, but I still want to just mention it. Like, did this really happen? Because when I say, I'm talking about different people in different states, fully divorced. And they're saying that this organization or this community and this, that, and they changed up, and he was like this now, and she's like that now. And as soon as he crossed over, they changed up. And I'm just like, you lost your partner? Really? In my opinion, it was already some other things already wrong. And perhaps they may have looked at the organization or the community as being the catalyst to ending their partnership. But I think there were other things that were already in place that caused the fracture. And even the person that I spoke with this week about his wife, he says, well, you know what, Alyssa, um, maybe if their spouse has such a weakness in them that an organization or other people within an organization or a community became that influential, maybe their marriage wasn't as strong as the other thought it was. I was I was floored with that one. You made a good point. But I thought, wow. But I still want to bring it up. Like, holy smokes, that's something different. I'll probably revisit that later. But I wanted to hop on just for a little bit. I am figuring out now and have figured out with the analytics that my podcasts do well between 30 minutes and an hour at the very, very most. Most people do not have the capacity to listen to a podcast for an hour. I do. I have the capacity to listen to a podcast for about an hour and a half, it depending on the podcast. The pivot, I'm all in. Ryan, Fred, and Channing, I'm all in. Hour and a half, I'm good because I'm a commuter for work, so I'm listening. Minority Report, I'm all in. The kikis and the laughs and the drive-by shadings when you don't see it coming, but Auntie Dewan get one off, I'm like, whoa! I'm all in. Most podcasts, I don't. Dateline, baby, Dateline, I'm all in. I want to find out who did it. Who's the killer? Why? I'm all in. But I have discovered that keeping my podcast between 30 and an hour works well for me. I did want to hop on and talk about my the things that have been surrounding me with parents, peers, and partners. And you know what? I made it. I think I'm ready for a partnership now. I've been like holding off for a long time about partnership. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to get back in one because I don't know if I have the best version of me because I got trust issues and I got some baggage and some luggage. And I still do, but it's like, it's not like the big bag. It's maybe a little carry on, a little pouch, maybe a little satchel. It's not, it's not the, it's not the luggage that it once was. And partnership, like I said, even though I'm a divorcee, I'm still very much a proponent for marriage and partnerships and things like that. So I think I'm finally getting ready where it's like, I want to be an us. I want to be a we. I want to have an hour. OUR, not HOUR, for just in case this, you know, closed caption on this video gets it wrong. I want to be an hour, an us, a we, and I'm ready for partnership. I think I might be ready to try the whole dating thing again. Like I said, I'm getting older. Only got a few more summers left. Now, I've had my hot girl summer, so it won't be those. I'm ready for the golden girl, olden girl summers. And that's what I wanted to say on this episode of Dig and Conversation Podcast with Elissa. If you listen to me, You heard me on Amazon, iHeart, Pandora, Spotify. You may have watched me on Spotify, or you may have watched me on YouTube. Once again, my socials are Facebook, Dick and Conversation Podcast Facebook page. My I almost forgot it. My YouTube channel is Dick and Conversation Podcast channel. My Instagram is Dick and Conversation _podcast. My email is dickandconvo@gmail.com. My blue sky, because we're not on X, we're not on Twitter. We're not on Twitter. My blue sky is dickandconvo.bsky.social. Oh, I forgot I'm on Threads. Threads, Dick and Conversation _podcast. Threads, because it's connected to Instagram. And finally, I am on TikTok. TikTok. Dick and Conversation podcast. This has been Elissa, and I will see you next time, or you'll hear me next time at least. Bye.